Hello, welcome back to another YouTube video. My name's Ketan, I call myself that day-to-day guy, and today we're looking at my Mercedes SL320, 1998 Mercedes SL320. The last time you saw this car, it looked a little bit different. I'm not going to bore you with the full geekiness of what I've done, you know, what these cars are about, but if you're anything like me and you are on YouTube watching this video or other 129 videos, you're looking for inspiration as to how you want your car to look, or you're just looking for general videos before you go out and buy one yourself. So just a quick background. I bought this car from a gentleman who was, I think he must have been in his 70s now. He bought the car new in 1998, and he only covered 18,000 miles in the car, just under 18,000 miles when I picked it up. And that to me is as a recipient of a car like that, I'm grateful, but it's criminal, because these cars are supposed to be driven, you're supposed to enjoy them and obviously look after them. But I am the recipient now of a beautiful looking interior, beautiful looking car, and you know, when you buy low mileage cars, you've just, you know, got to, because they need to be driven, there will be some rubbers and so on that will need replacing, which I will get done. But so far so good. Touch wood. There's wood. There we go. Anyway, so what have I done to the outside of the car? Last time you saw this car, it would have been on W220 wheels on there. W220 wheels are from an S-Class of the same era, well, of the later SL era. And to the uninitiated, they look exactly the same as these wheels. In fact, some of my friends said, I don't know why you've bothered to change the wheels, because they can't tell the difference. But I know. These are R129, original R129 wheels with an R129 part number, the correct offset, and so on and so forth. They're super rare. In America, they're quite common because they come on the SL500 Sport. And in Europe, that's not the case. So I was looking for these wheels. I didn't want to pay £3,000 because there was a set for sale in Europe, £3,000 and maybe £3,500 including shipping. I wasn't going to pay that kind of money just for the wheels. That's not even with the tires. But anyway, I settled for the W220 wheels, and then 3 or 4 days later, a chap who, funnily enough, lives local to me, who deals with R129 parts, messaged me and said he's got these wheels to sell. And I couldn't help but, I didn't pay £3,500 for them, but I couldn't help but just get them because that's what I wanted. Now, the W220 wheels are in the garage amongst a whole bunch of other parts that I need to pull my finger out and start selling. Anyway, so I've done that. I've lowered the car 30 millimeters, which to me is not like rude boy low. It's low enough to look factory, and it doesn't look like a, I don't want to use the word tractor, but it doesn't look, you know, super high like it did in the last video. I personally think if you put 18-inch wheels on a 129, you need to lower it slightly, because it does make a difference as to how the car sits. Outside, other than have some scuff marks refinished on the corners of the bumpers, and more on the front bumper than the rear, I've not done anything. The car, as you see it, has just had a hand polish and a wax. I am going to machine polish the whole car and perhaps ceramic coat it. I don't know yet. But if you think this pops right now, in video it's very hard to look at all the imperfections. But it's an almost 30-year-old car, so I'm not going to be precious over it, because unlike the last owner, I'm going to use this car. I'm going to drive this car. I've already taken it to work a few times. You know, just use it as a, this is as modern a classic as you want, that you can use as a daily car, certainly in the spring, summer months. So that's what we've done on the outside of the car. In the coming weeks, I'm going to take the wheels off and clean all inside the arches, give the engine a detail. And speaking of the engine, what I've also done is change the hood insulation. Under bonnet insulation, we call it. If you're America, hood. In the UK, we call it a bonnet. But yeah, I've changed that, and that's quite an easy process that you can find your videos on YouTube on how to do that. But a lot of the changes I've done are inside the car. So if we come around this way, and we look inside the car, you've got, first of all, let's open it. So you've got rear seats in the car now. The car came with a rear bench, which has 2 folding doors where you can store things in. Some people put an audio upgrade in there, subwoofer and so on. Something I'm not going to do. So I prefer the look of seats. I just think they look a bit more premium. So I put seats in the car. I found a set like an hour and a half away for the same Java color code. And They are straight fit. All the seatbelt fittings are in the car, whether you have a bench or not. So that's a great plus point. So all you've got to do is remove the carpets, remove the bench, and then replace with the new rear carpets and the seats, and all the fixings are there, like I said. So it's a, you know, an hour, 2-hour job tops. It's one of those things, as you can see from here, nobody's actually going to sit in the car. You might put a, an overnight bag on the bench, but there's plenty of room in the boot for that as well. I just think visually they look nicer. And then in the front of the car, if you remember on my last video, I talked about the steering wheel. The steering wheel in this car, my only reservation about buying this car was that it's a fairly basic spec car. So doesn't have heated seats, doesn't have memory seats, and these are things visually you can see when you look in the center console. I always look for the heated seats, and they're nice to have because I don't use the car in the winter. So for me, the heated seats thing is a bit of a, well, I'm not going to use it, but it's a nice to have. Like a panoramic roof. I've been offered a panoramic roof for the car at the cost of roughly £2,500. And I'll be honest with you, the roof, I've had a panoramic roof before, and it was on the car the day I bought the car, and it was on the car the day I sold the car. I don't use this car in winter. In autumn and winter, I want creature comforts, so I use my daily car. So these are all kind of, nice to haves. And sometimes when you're buying a car, you can get so engrossed with, I want this, I want that. And you'll find once you buy the car and you live with the car, you think, well, you know what? I'm glad I didn't just have that as my only criteria. And I'm glad now, because the car is an 18,000 mile car and it's a unicorn car. You're not going to find another car of this kind of mileage and this condition for the money that I paid for the car. I did get the car at a very bargain price, I will say. Wooden steering wheel, the same chap that supplied me the wheels, he did say to me when he came to collect the old wheels that I had on this car, I forget, Ali Bali wheels, I think they're called. He said to me he might have a steering wheel coming in, a wooden steering wheel, car with a wooden steering wheel coming in, and if I'd want to do a straight swap. He buys and sells R129s and obviously gathers parts as he does these little projects. So just last week, he messaged me on the Sunday. Monday afternoon, I was at his house. We changed the wheel over. The wheel is from a slightly more higher mileage car. So if you look really closely, you can tell, but at first glance, you can't tell. The wheel and the gear knob were just the standard leather ones, and I changed it for the wooden one, which I think just looks a bit more premium. With my R107, there's a company called Furniture Clinic in the UK who do a refinishing kit where you basically rub down, you clear the steering wheel of all contaminants, you rub it down, you key the surface of the leather, and then you re-dye the leather. And it's surprisingly good finish, and it wears really, really well, and it just spruces up the interior. So that's the next project on the interior. Already talked about seats. Audio, I did talk about this in the last video, but I put in a Blaupunkt Frankfurt in there, which looks, that little orange line at the bottom just makes it kind of match with the wood. I'm still on the fence about whether this looks period correct or not, but it looks great. It came with a sat-nav radio, as you can see there from the antenna, but obviously sat-nav from 1998. Not very good. So I've put this in, and then you've got an Octa Classic cup holder in the middle with a phone holder, so I can put my phone in there, Bluetooth to the stereo. If I want to use Google Maps, I can glance down there. Because this is an occasional car, I'm not overly bothered about things like, having the phone on a window suction mount or whatever. Mats, I did call Mercedes up to ask about original mats for these cars, and they don't do them in this color anymore. They might do some other colors, but the color that I wanted, they don't do. So there's a company called on eBay, and I think they're called Langenfelter or something, but they make mats for these cars, and to me, they're the most factory looking. They were kind enough to send me some samples out, and my only reservation is that the carpet is not as fluffy as the actual factory carpet. You can't tell by looking at it, but it's just, I'm being really pernickety now, and the mats don't come. They come with the buttons to keep them in place, but they didn't come with the badges. The badges I found on eBay, and you literally pierce 2 holes in the mat, and you clamp them through, and there's screws on the underside, and it just gives the mats that more factory appearance. And I can't believe I'm saying this, because when I was a kid I was modify, and now I'm Still modify, but still with a factory look. And I don't know if I said already, but the car's a 320. I did say it's a 320, but they come generally in a 280, 320, 500 and 600. Now, obviously 500 and 600 are excellent cars. The specs are higher and obviously they're quicker. However, I've had mainly 320s. I had a 280 and L-Reg 280. My friend and I used to buy and sell old cars. We flipped a 280 and I think they're woefully underpowered. But that's just my opinion. 320, somebody with a 500 would say 320 is underpowered. But for me, just for wafting along, this is more than quick enough. It's not, you know, these cars aren't sports cars where you're cornering around bends like a crazy person and so on. They are, you know, for me, they're cruise mobiles. So a 320 is more than enough for my needs. If a 500 came up and a 500 was of this kind of spec and within my budget, I would have bought it. But it didn't. It was a case of whatever car comes up first. And I think this car I'm going to keep for a few years, because even if I do 4,000 miles a year in this car for 3 years, it will still have 30,000 miles on it. So it should still be one of the lowest mileage cars available. However, if I miraculously come into some money and I am feeling very frivolous, there's a car I saw on Instagram a few weeks ago, a black car with a E55 engine in it, and it's apparently a relatively straightforward thing to do for someone who knows what they're doing, obviously, not me. But that would be awesome to have this car have a 5.5 litre V8 in it. And that is something I would love to do, because it would just finish off this car nicely. You know, as a base car, an 18,000 mile solid car, one owner car, this would be great to do. Some might say sacrilege to do that to that kind of car, but for me, it's you know, I would only do it if this is a car I'm going to keep for many, many years and it becomes part of a collection. As I said, that's if I come into some serious money, which is very unlikely, but hey, we can all dream, eh? Interior wise, as you can see, the seats are all, you know, nice and in nice condition. They're nice and matte still. The one drawback about these cars is over time the leather becomes very shiny, and I don't like the visual appearance of it. But like on YouTube, there's so many videos about how to improve all these things, and parts are so readily available. It's you know, it's just a fun thing to do. These cars allow you to tinker with them. I don't do anything with that car. I was washing it yesterday, that's why the spoiler's up, so excuse me. And I'm not one of those, dare I say, wankers that has the spoiler up when it's not supposed to be up, but yeah. You know, I don't tinker with that. This is a car that I can tinker with, I can improve, and there's a certain level of satisfaction about making something better. And it's progress, not perfection. Just like in life, you know, if you can do little things that make something better, you know, over time, you're just going to improve it increment by increment, and it's going to be miles from when you bought the car, and you can add value to it. You know, it's like property or anything in life. You know, even your own body, you just by little bit, you make it better and better and better. You become stronger and better. Bit of life advice there. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We are now going to go for a drive. Let's go for a drive and we'll talk about how it drives. There's not really much to talk about, but let's go for a drive and get some driving shots. We're going to take the 360 camera out and fingers crossed we get some usable footage. But yeah, let's get started. What a day for it. What a day for it. Seen a few classics out already, which is nice. It's one of those days for getting the roof down. But getting in this car always just reminds me of when I was a kid. I say kid, 21, 22 years old. My friend's dad had a tourmaline green SL320 with black interior and 18-inch monoblocks. And he would let us, 2 kids, take his car out into central London, and it was awesome. Like, I never grew up, we grew up with a Nissan Bluebird, and you know, it was, to be fair, I still ogle at those now. I've seen Nissan Bluebird, and the feeling of nostalgia just is like, wow. Get more excited by a Nissan Bluebird than, let's say, a Ferrari 458 or Ferrari, 488 or whatever they are now. But yeah, this is just, it takes you back to a time when you were young, and I found the more I talk like this, I realize how old I am. But when you're young and you aspire to have a car like this, and now obviously they're cheaper and more affordable. Not for long though. I say more affordable, but they are on their way up. Let's turn around here. But yeah, 320. It's just it's very much it's a waffmobile. It's not a. All SLs are to me. It's not a car that you're going to get in your. You're going to race people off the lights and so on and so forth. If I want to do that, I've got the e-tron GT, which is it's electric, but let's not open up that can of worms or debate about that. But it's 500 horsepower, 0 to 16, 3.9 seconds or whatever. To me, anything less than 5 seconds is more than quick enough. You don't drive 0 to 60 everywhere, You just cruise along. You want that power when you need it to overtake somebody. I'm a middle-aged man. I don't go to car meets and I'm like, oh, my one's got 500 horsepower, your one's got 498. That's for kids. We just want to drive the car, and this has enough power to overtake comfortably and waft along and just, enjoy the drive. As I said, if I ever come into money, E55 engine is going in this car. But yeah. Where are we going? Let's go that way. If you're looking to buy one of these, I would advise that you get out and have a look at the cars, because there's a spread in price and there's a big spread in condition of the car. So there's lots of cars available, 3, 4, £5,000 up to 30, 40,000 pounds. This is somewhere slap bang in the middle, but mileage, history, all the obvious stuff that, I'm not going to teach you how to buy a car, but don't be scared of certain things you can do yourself. If the interior is looking a bit tired, don't be scared of that. You can always get a trimmer to replace the bolster. You can spruce up the interior with interior paint. There's kits available. I encourage anyone, if you're going to buy a car like this, it's a great way to improve your practical skills, and there's so much on YouTube that you can use to teach you, and it's your first attempt at doing anything might not be the best attempt, but you know what? That's how we get better at doing things. I've been a very practical person all my life and still learning new things every day. I don't touch mechanicals right now, but maybe one day in the future when I have more time, I'll be more inclined to do things like that. But at the moment, anything cosmetic, I'll have a go at, and have had great results. And if I think back about the stuff we used to do with cars 10, 15 years ago, our skills have vastly improved. So just something to think about. All right, I'm going to head home now. So I think that's pretty much that. I will say thank you for watching. If you like my channel, feel free to like and subscribe. It's not just about cars, it's about all sorts of things. So if you're here just for the cars, I don't mind you just watching the car videos and not subscribing. It doesn't make a difference. I started this channel literally just to kind of let me be creative. I'm fascinated by filmmaking and the producing content and so on, so it lets me do that. And if you guys are here for the ride, cool. And I just like to share some of my thoughts, because if you watch any of my other videos, as with anyone else in life, we've experienced lots of ups, lots of downs, and sometimes it's nice to know that somebody else is experiencing what you're experiencing. So anyway, let's just stick to a car video. So I shall say thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Ciao for now.